I'm sorry, not my mouth full of lunch.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
That's good.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for joining another one of these brief Teams talks that we do on Wednesdays following convocation. This week I wanted to, and I sort of have talked about pieces of this in other Teams talks, but I want to talk about using the MeSH database, which most of you are probably familiar with. And I don't know if I thought maybe if there were some students that would attend that they might find this useful. How to use the MeSH database, how to build advanced searches after using the MeSH database in PubMed, and how we can use what I've shown before called the Polyglot Translator, which is part of something called the SR Accelerator, to translate that syntax into an advanced search that can be used in other databases besides PubMed. So you don't have to build your advanced searches from scratch for each database that you want to do an advanced search in. So if you go to the LUCOM Medical Library page, I always show where to start with this. I was just talking about this before. You'll see our advertisement for our Medical Bioethics Symposium this April. And absolutely, if you can make it, it's that Tuesday, April 4th from 7 to 8:30. We'd love to have you. It's going to be a really good topic, really good speaker. But for today, if you scroll down to databases and expand that drop down, and towards the bottom, you're going to want to use this PubMed link. And this probably looks familiar if you've done any NLM searches in PubMed. And you'll probably have seen this advanced search here. But what I want to show first is you want to make sure you're using, every database has a control, libraries call them controlled vocabularies. National Library of Medicine and PubMed calls it their medical subject headings. That's what their controlled vocabulary is called, or they call it MeSH. And if you look down underneath this search box, you'll see learn, find, download, explore, and you'll see MeSH database. So if I click on MeSH database, it'll take me to what looks very familiar to the legacy PubMed, but except you'll see this drop down, it says MeSH, and there's all these other databases you can search here too, but I'm searching the MeSH database because I want to find what terms I'm supposed to use. So if I say I'm looking for articles on high, I always do this, but high blood pressure. Okay, so hypertension is the first hit for the MeSH term. That's the medical subject heading for controlled vocabulary that I want to use for high blood pressure. So now that I know that I have that, I can go back to PubMed. Let me go back to and if I want to build an advanced search, I've already done this a little bit just trying to show, but I'm going to clear this, I guess, so I can start over. So now I know that my MeSH term I want to use is hypertension. I'm looking for articles on hypertension, and I want to add that to my history. So I found, 614,000 articles on hypertension. That's a lot in PubMed using that MeSH term. And as you build an advanced search in PubMed, this is something we show in our PBM course, our Introduction to Sources of Clinical Information, how you build advanced searches. You build using Boolean operators, and or not. So if we're looking for hypertension, and say we're also looking for, we know beta blockers. I just know beta blockers happen to treat that. So now, okay, so there's 106,000 articles in here for beta blockers. So now, if I add my MeSH term of hypertension to my search, you'll see my query box here is building this search, and I want to add beta blockers with the Boolean operator and add that. Now I've only got 22,000 articles. You'll see that I'm refining my search as I'm building with MeSH terms and Boolean operators. Another example of a treatment for hypertension might be diuretics. If I add that, I've got 108,000 hits for diuretics. So now if I add this query of hypertension and beta blockers, and let's say I want to add or diuretics and add that to my history. Now I've got 123,000, so I've broadened that, or broadens your search. So I'm looking at hypertension and beta blockers or diuretics. So I'm expanding that search. So you can see here I'm building this advanced search. And so now let's say I want to go to these results. Let's see if I want to find where's my advanced? Here we go. want to build my, where's my advanced search here? There we go. So under details, what we see in the search interface is a much more simplified version of what's actually taking place behind the scenes in the database. So when we build that hypertension and beta blockers or diuretics, what's actually being built is this. So it's looking up hypertense, hypertension, hypertensions, hypertensives, or adrenergic beta antagonists. All this stuff is happening behind the scenes. This is what the advanced search actually looks like. And so if you say you're doing a search across multiple databases, you don't want to have to build your advanced search from scratch using different syntax for every data, because every database uses different syntax, which can be frustrating and confusing. But if you go back to the medical library database and scroll down to databases and click on the course guides and textbooks and scroll down here underneath quick links, I've put some kind of popular tools that aren't necessarily library resources, but they're useful. And you'll find SR Accelerator here. So if I click on SR Accelerator, I've showed this before. This is a tool that can be used for screening articles. If you're writing systematic reviews, there's all kinds of tools in here. It's a free resource. If you're interested in doing systematic review research, this is a really cool resource. But one of the tools over here is the polyglot search. And I think I've shown something about this on a Teams talk before, but I thought it would be a good way to kind of cross over and show both of these things at one time. So if I click on my polyglot search, you can see I've already played with this a little bit. So if I go over to PubMed and I look at that details, and here's my advanced search that I just built. I copy that, I come over here and paste that into my query. This is what the advanced search actually looks like in PubMed. What they've done in the Polyglot Translator search is said, okay, so if this is what the syntax looks like for the advanced search in PubMed, let's say I want to search Ovid Medline. This is what it looks like. And do you see how their syntax, hypertense.af.or, exp, hypertension slash, their syntax is a little different. This search is the same thing as this search, but this search is going to find more hits in Medline than this search will. Does that make sense? So we're taking one search, it's one advanced search, and we're translating it into the syntax that another database will be able to recognize and find those hits. And they're not all here, but there's enough that are super useful. We have access to Cochrane Library. Here's that same advanced search in Cochrane Library. Hypertense or medical heading, see instead of MeSH, medical heading hypertension or hypertensions. But the syntax and with the brackets, it looks a little bit different, but this will find those hits for you in Cochrane Library. We don't have access to Embase, unfortunately, but if you have access to Embase, it's got the search for Embase. We do have CINAHL, which I know is a nursing database. We used to have Web of Science. We don't have that anymore, but a big competitor to Web of Science that we do have is from Elsevier called Scopus. And you'll find that they have a basic and an advanced search translated here for Scopus. So if I were to want to look for, say I'm doing like citation mining, or if I want to find impact factor for different articles with this advanced search, I can, and they don't call it impact factor in Scopus, they call it something else. They call it, I can't remember the term they use. It's the same kind of metric. But this is what the advanced search looks like in Scopus, which we have access to. We have access to PsycInfo through Ovid. We have access to ProQuest Health and Medical. So yeah, so that's kind of like what I wanted to show you. It's like another example. I was thinking, if we go back to our MeSH database and say, I'm looking for rapid heart rate, and that's tachycardias. So that's the term we want to use. So if I go back to PubMed, I'm going to clear my history. and I'm going to look up tachycardia and add that to my history. And oh wow, only 17 articles. That's doesn't seem like a lot. But anyway, so if let's say I want to add I want to add beta blockers. Okay. Well, this has gone back to the legacy. This looks a little bit different because it's going back and forth between the new version of PubMed and the old version of what it looked like. But this is that same advanced search that we were showing in the other version. So if I were to grab this search, copy it, go back to my SR accelerator, I want to remove my previous advanced search, and I'm looking up tachycardia and beta blockers. It's going to automatically translate that for Medline. This one looks a lot more simple, but it's going to translate it for Cochrane Library, InBase, Cinol, if you're going to use that. I know that's more nursing. Web of Science, which we don't use anymore, but we do have Scopus. So if you want to use Scopus, if you're looking for the number of times articles have been cited or impact factor. But that's basically what I wanted to show today. I know that's kind of a short snippet of something, but if you're doing research across multiple databases, this could be a real time saver for you not having to learn the syntax for advanced searches in every single different database that you might be using to search for articles. So I kind of wanted to show how you can use your MeSH database to find your terms, then to build your advanced search, then to copy your advanced search into the Polyglot Translator and the Systematic Review Accelerator. Does anybody have any questions about that, or did I explain that properly, or does that seem useful at all to anybody? Quiet.
I think it's useful. It's just I don't need it right now, but yeah, it seems useful for me in the future for sure.
Yeah, any kind of research projects that you might be working on, or if you have students helping you, this might be a good thing to pass on to them. And I share these with students too. So if they come to do research projects, they should be familiar with it too.
Okay, and they actually might be able to help me utilize it.
Yeah, anytime you guys want help with any of these things, I can come to your office and we can go through it together.
I appreciate.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
No, thank you, Rob.
No, thank
Absolutely.
you.
Have a good day.
You too.